Oh, I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. It's been a wonderful week. Been getting a couple of things done, so we've been very productive. But yeah, it's been a great week.
Yep.
And as I spoke to you earlier, we were actually expecting another party online, but she was having some technical difficulties, so I'm not sure if we'll get Sal or not. She's actually calling in from Australia, and as I stated, for her, it's 3 a.m. in the morning. So, like I said, definitely want to give her an opportunity. So if she comes in, then we'll continue the conversation with her. But what you and I can do is begin the course of our conversation, and we'll see where it leads us, and then just move from there. But you and I were just talking about men and women and how we differ, and you made a point to say that as far as how this thing works, the laws, the principles, and so forth, women tend to get it easier than men. Why do you think that that's the case?
Well, actually, men actually have more on their mind than the women do. Men are into many things, like sports and going out and all of that more often than women do. So I think that there is a line that gets crossed both ways. So generally, it's okay.
So the bottom line is we're distracted. We tend to be more distracted where they tend to be more focused. Women from childhood, they're taught how to communicate in feelings. And I know for me as a man, as a spouse, even as a grandfather in interacting with females, I don't always have the success of communicating with feelings. I communicate in I think, and my wife will often communicate in I feel. You and I have talked about it together about feeling is the secret, and I believe that females are able to get this work because they operate from a place of feelings, and we have to discover or learn how to operate from a place of feelings. Would you agree?
Because we go generally by facts. We want facts.
Lyndall, hello.
Oh, yes. Hello. We were waiting. Oh.
Thank you, Lyndall, for taking this time to have a chat with me.
Thank you, because I get to hear it again, too.
I know. And I've had a couple of conversations with DeCarlo, and to be honest, I don't really have written or planned questions for you, but for me it was more the opportunity to just discuss what I think is the most important knowledge and truth that people could ever know.
The most important thing you can do is just monitor your own inner conversations with yourself, because you're talking to yourself ahead of your evidence. So since you're talking to yourself ahead of your evidence, and it's you that gets pushed out into the world, your ideas, your attitudes, it's all you. That's the only thing you have to really focus on is you. And I know some people will say, well, that sounds like me stuff. But look, if you can't help yourself, how could you help somebody else?
I totally agree. No, it's fantastic. And what I love about your message, Lyndall, and Neville, and people with a similar attitude or approaches, is you keep it simple. And I found when I first came across Neville, that's what took my attention. It really did sound like this man was speaking from truth. Yeah, and it wasn't wrapped up with all this confusing information. He was real, and
that's what attracted me, was that, he got up, he gave his message, and then he said, well, goodbye, and he took off. I wanted a message. And here it is. It's your first-person, present tense message. And it comes through you, not to you.
What I think is really important for people to understand as well, because I don't know if you can relate to this, Lyndall, but I'll first explain how I seem to have started off and then how I realised I had to change was that at the beginning when I first heard Neville speak, I tried to implement what this gentleman was saying. And I found that my mind was unruly. And I really went into I need to search for more knowledge. I must not know enough.
Actually, you do know it all. You understand? You already know it all. It's about remembering. What did God leave us? A remembrancer. So you'll remember that who you actually are. This body is a thing you own, but it's not you. Your spirit. Therefore, all you're given to do is to make a statement and then stand. That's it. To see the victory. You just stand on that decision you made. But most people find it very difficult to make any kind of decision and to stick with it. And that's the reason why they don't get it, is that they just don't stick with it long enough, faithful enough. You know, Neville said it, man's faith in God is measured by his confidence in himself. And so they lack the confidence to even honestly question yourself, because I found I was really quite a liar to myself.
And for me, I realized that I had to make this become part of me. And I did that by repeatedly listening to the lectures or anyone really. For me, it was Neville. It could be someone else for another person. Mm-hmm. But I had to listen to his lectures daily. Every single day. I still do.
And I still listen to him because, look, I started making tapes, 50 years ago. And that was the best thing I ever did, because you don't remember things. You see, that's, what did you have for dinner 3 nights ago? See?
I have no idea.
If you can't remember what you had for dinner 3 nights ago, how are you going to remember all of those wonderful things you thought about and they just went into the wind? You didn't get a log and put those things down because you're not going to remember them. Like I said, if you can't remember what you had a few nights ago to eat for dinner, how are you going to remember these things? This is you doing spiritual talk to yourself. Because, Jesus said it very plainly, I of myself can do nothing. It is the Father within who does all the work. So you're not to be concerned about how it comes about or from what direction, but that it is already. You see, we already have we're told that worshiping God is using his gifts, right? So,
and I think you've said something important there. When you don't worry about how it's going to come about, you will automatically be staying in the state of already having what you want, because that was something I had to really change within myself. I'm not living in the end. I'm acknowledging the lack of what I want. And it took a bit of practice. But once I almost had to train or change the way on what I reflect on. So instead of reflecting on the objective world, the world around me, to see if my manifestation was coming, I started learning to do that within. If I and it took a lot of trials, I think I said to DeCarlo, I explained it like, once you hit your head against the wall enough times, you finally get it, that you can't do that, because you're not in the end when you're doing that, when you're looking out there.
That's it.
But that cycle took a little while to break. But you're right, you're spot on. It's repeating it.
It's like I said, you just have to be patient with yourself. That's all. That's all anyone has to do first. You have to be patient with yourself. Because if you're not being patient with yourself, the rest of it doesn't matter. Because you won't get it. And in the silence is where you get your instruction. But you have to shut up. That was the hardest thing in the world for me to do, was just to be quiet. to shut up. You know, we're told, be still and know that I am God, with you always, will never leave you, omnipresence. Come on. What else do you need to know?
And that's what makes the beauty of your teaching and of your message so simple and so clear. And I thank you for that, because you reach more people than you will ever know. What people need to hear, that it is simple and it's not always easy. And I think it is something that you will continuously have to remind yourself, because the mind would naturally like to default back to, putting a finger and blaming the world.
Well, you know, we're told 70 times 7. Use them up every day. All 700 of them.
It is so true. But I think that's important to tell people, because no one is better at this than anybody else. We're all exactly the same, and we all begin from the same place.
But we all act different. So you get to choose your part. He told you, choose this day. You get to choose your part. If you're not choosing it, well, then the world will choose for you. And believe me, they're standing in the wings waiting for an opportunity to choose for you, for their benefit.
I love the way you put that. So would you say that every time somebody, or I, for example, react to a situation out there, I'm allowing the world to choose for me?
That's right. And like I said, they're waiting in the wings, watching. What does a lion do? He lays in the grass and he looks at the passing herd, and he's looking for the one who's not making it so good, and that's the one he attacks. All the criminals are looking for the people who aren't paying attention. You know, I remember in a parking lot over at the grocery store, I was about to get in my car, and this lady next to me, she came walking down. She put her purse on the trunk of the car, and she put her groceries in. She slammed the door, shut it, and she took off. And I'm saying, hey, 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 hey. And then I followed her out, and I was blowing the horn. In the meantime, she called the police that I was following her. So, and actually, the time we got to the exit there, the police were there, and he got out of the car and come over, and he says, what's the problem? And I just pointed to the hood there, and then he walked over and he said something to her. I didn't actually hear that, and then she got out of the car and she goes, oh.
That's actually a really good story, because this woman, which is another angle of it, your intentions were good. Her assumptions were that you were doing something wrong. How often we do that?
That's what we do. It. We make assumptions on things when we don't have the facts. So what are we doing? We're deceiving ourselves. See, all denial is self-denial. God's not denying you anything. He gave you, choose this day, and whatsoever has a potential to choose from. But it's potential. You understand? You have to move in and think from. That completes the connection. Always see yourself in the end. It's finished. It is completed, if you accept it so.
I found, especially in the beginning, when I was trying to apply this law, this principle, that I would struggle to think from. And what I found helped me immensely was music. I would start using music to put me in a particular mood, to be able to imagine from something that I was after, because at times I was in such an anxious state. Trying to imagine what I was after was just too far of a leap for my mind to accept. And I found quite quickly, I thought, hang on a second, I love music. And if I put on a particular song or a particular type of music, I found that I was able to imagine, enter the scenes so much more easily.